Restoring Your Voice, where I'm here to restore, prepare, and equip you. Alrighty then, that's right. Welcome to another episode of Restoring Your Voice on this Monday, the 19th of June, 2023. So glad that you could be here, especially for this new segment of Restoring Your Voice. Like, what do you mean a new segment? That's right. So I'm calling this Marriage Monday. Now, is that going to be every Monday of every month? I don't know. At least I want to talk about something that's near and dear to the Lord's heart, which is the subject of marriage. It is a topic covered many areas in Scripture. It's a topic that is, I believe, is truly near and dear to God's heart. It's taught, through various areas. We know things like that. So we're going to cover different topics of marriage. And by the way, if you're single, don't tune out. Okay, this is for you as well. One, you never know if you're going to end up getting married, but at the very least, you can help out other couples with this type of stuff. At the very least, right? At the very least, you can learn something new. It's always great to learn something new. So I want you to weigh in on this. Now, mind you, I believe that this is an important topic. So it's streaming everywhere. It's streaming on YouTube and Facebook and Twitter and my website. Now, for the Twitter audience out there, all right, if anybody's watching right now, if you want to weigh in or if you want to ask questions, you got to hop on over to YouTube. I can't see comments from Twitter. I can't see that. So like I said, hop on over to the YouTube channel, David C. McGuire. If you're wondering, well, where's the link at on Twitter? Go to my profile. It's probably the last thing I tweeted out, I believe. Anyway, it's right there. So there it is. So Alex, you can weigh in on this topic, questions. Now, tomorrow, real quick though, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do a show or not. As of right now, I was thinking something fell over. Never mind. Anyway, as of right now, it's a no. I have to take my oldest son to an appointment tomorrow. You know how doctor's appointments are. You know, it's at 2 p.m., but, within that, am I going to get back in time to do a show? I don't know yet, but be on the lookout, because if I am able to get back to do a show, then I'll do a Q&A. And by the way, I did a Q&A this weekend. So, which reminds me, you say, well, I didn't know you did the Q&A. No, it's because you're probably not subscribed to the YouTube channel. So you need to go and subscribe. So you may be out there in Facebook land or Twitter land or wherever, and you didn't catch it. Well, the Bible-based Q&As are on my YouTube channel only, nowhere else. Okay, that's where they go. That's where they go live, and you can ask your questions there. So if you're wondering, well, how come you didn't get a chance? You didn't go to the YouTube channel. All right, David C. McGuire, hit that subscribe button and make sure the notifications there are set to all, so you know when I post new stuff and so on and so forth. Anyway, okay, so that's out of the way. Now let's dive into the topic of marriage. Now we're going to start with the basics, right? We got to build up stuff, right? And you can't go talking about the differences, say, between a man and a woman, right? I'm not talking about physical differences. That's obvious to everybody, right? I'm talking about, like, say, maybe the way, how does a man and a woman relate to one another? How do they think differently? How is their communication methods, for instance, or anything like that? Just even the difference between why a man needs respect and why a woman needs love. Why isn't both the same for them? How does it all work together? What is the submission part? But what is this love part? We can't talk about any of that until we set the foundation. Okay. So that's what we're doing today. We're starting with the basics. Okay. We start off with the question, well, is marriage important? Now, some of you out there, I hope all of you, that question will come across as most obvious as a resounding no. But I don't know who's listening. I don't know always who's watching. So we got to start with the basics. So obviously, is marriage important, right? Now, why would I be that's such a silly question? Because believe it or not, to a lot of people, and I'm not talking about necessarily the world, but within the church, believe it or not, the answer would be a resounding no. I meant to say yes, sorry, earlier. Yeah. Is marriage important? I thought, a lot of my audience would be a resounding yes, it's absolutely important. That's what I would hope so. But the numbers don't lie. statistics show otherwise. So I'm going to bring this up on your screen right here. Hopefully you can make it out. So here we have, this is a study done by the Pew Research Center. By the way, okay, these are statistics. I want you to pay attention though, not to all of them. I want you to first at least focus on this portion right here, because this is Christian. Now they put this under Christian, that under Christian. These are not Christians. Okay, I don't know why they did that. I didn't make up the survey. I'm just showing you what's out there. This should be alarming to you. Okay, now this says 74%, but I only took into account the evangelical Protestants. Right, this is so a religious composition of divorced or separated adults. So 28% an evangelical Protestant, right? 14% in mainline Protestant. Like I said, I don't know why they separate the two, is beyond me. But the numbers are there. And then we have historically Black Protestant numbers is 9%. So a total among Christendom, we'll say main Christendom, right, is 51%. Now, as I was doing research on this, and I was, I don't want to ever use just one source. I want to go look at multiple sources. I saw something by the Gospel Coalition that was trying to say that the divorce rate among Christians on par with the world, they're saying it's false, and they were supposedly debunking that. Well, I'm debunking them, debunking that right here. Like I said, the numbers don't lie, right? So together, the 28, 14, and 9% come to 51%. Okay, I added it up by calculator. I'm not that good at math. 51% at least. That should be alarming, right? That should be very alarming to you out there. Maybe you've never seen these stats. I don't know, but these right here should wake up and realize, hey, yeah, over half of Christians in America, over half, mind you. I mean, that number should be way smaller. So you're wondering, why do I start with the basics? Right there is proof positive of why. So that's bad, 51%. And we should beg, and it's also, if you look at the other numbers on here, it begs the question too, it should be alarming. Why is the world, those under the whole sway of saying, why are the divorce and separation rates significantly lower, right? Because if you see on average, the rates are either about 1% or below 1%, right? Really, really low rates. We're looking at Muslims, we're looking at Jews, we're looking at Hindus, we're looking at Jehovah's Witnesses, Mormons. Why are our divorce rates and separation rates higher than that? Right? That should alarm me. Why is the world looking better than us when it comes to this? I hope you would be alarmed by it. I hope you'll be shocked into a wake up call to do something about this. But some other stats here, as I scroll down, is how about the belief in God among divorced or separated adults, right? In other words, so 69% say, this is 69% of people who are divorced or separated, okay? So 69% say they believe in God with an absolute certainty, yet this is the highest number versus they believe in God a fairly amount. So 69% of divorced or separated adults say they believe in God with an absolute certainty. Then it drops dramatically down to 18% of people who are divorced or separated believe in God fairly certain, and it goes down and down and down. All right. We have down here, how about the importance of religion in one's life? So 57%, again, the highest rate here. They say that religion is very important, yet here is the highest rate yet again, with a significant drop down to 24% of people who are divorced or separated, where they say it's somewhat important. This should be alarming. Okay, this should be very alarming. But this one, how about this one? This is an interesting one right here. This is attendance at religious services among divorced or separated adults, right? So 35% once or twice a year, 32% once a week. Let me pause on this real quick. Now, these are people who say, now, I don't know when they say religious services, doesn't mean church, doesn't mean synagogue, doesn't mean temple. What does it mean? I don't know. but I'm not focusing on that. I'm focused on the Christians in America. This right here should tell us that, I mean, it's 32% is lower than once or twice a month, so that's a good thing. So there's some correlation between attending church and staying together as a couple. That's a good thing. So that speaks to me. We can obviously those numbers can obviously get a lot better, but something is done right in there. That should, if you want a tool, you're like, well, I should probably be attending church weekly. Frequency of prayer. So 61% of divorce among divorce separate, 61% believe in prayer, but yet it's significantly high with a dramatic lowering in 15%. Why do you think that is? Now, I'm not giving you exact answers right now. Just all food for thought. I may or may not dig into this later. Like I said, we're getting into the basics right now. Is it important? Is marriage important? But we have, this one is a very interesting statistic, is frequency of participation in prayer, scripture study, or religious education groups among divorced and separated. So this could be, like I said, a Bible study, could be a prayer group, could be a men's group, could be a women's group. Who knows? What they come, cell groups or home groups. 57% of is the highest number that whole hardly ever do this. Yet the low rate is 25% who do this at least once a week. That's a good thing. That must mean that they're attending these things, gathering together as Christians, as the Bible commands us and tells us not to forsake, might have a part to play in marriage. So anyway, so that's it. That's it for those statistics. Like I said, please weigh in with your thoughts. Please, I'll take any questions you might have on the subject. But I just wanted to show you those statistics to get across to you that across Christendom in America, marriage is not held as something important. That's a sad fact. It's a very sad fact. So is it important? So we looked at the statistics and I told you it's a 51% divorce rate among Christians, right? That's on par with the world, right? If you go look up those type of statistics. How is it? Because why would we do that in Christians? Then you say, well, is it unfaithfulness? I don't know exactly every reason why, but I can tell you that it would be a lot lower if we valued marriage and if we thought about marriage exactly as God thought about it or thinks about it now. If we did that, I guarantee it would be significantly lower. If this was taught from pulpits across America, I guarantee, right, this would be a lot lower number. If pastors would actually talk about this type of stuff, right? But we rather hear when it talks about marriage, right? We don't, how often in churches, I don't know. You could tell me. I don't know your churches, and I'm not going to judge your pastors on this because I don't know. But how often do you hear this topic of marriage taught from the pulpit? God has lots to say about marriage. But I'll tell you at least this much. If pastors aren't teaching this and preaching on this regularly, then what does that say to the congregation? Right? It says that I don't have to take marriage because my leader, the one who I sit under spiritually, is not placing an emphasis on this. So why should I? You say, well, that's not what he's saying. Yeah, but actions speak louder than words. Right? So let's go on to God's design for marriage. How did God design marriage? What was his intention for marriage? Right? Well, thankfully, we have a book called the Bible that tells us these things, right? And we have a book that's part of the Bible, right? The first of 66 books that tell us what was God's exact intention for marriage. So we could, if you want to flip over in the Bible, you could go to Genesis chapter 2, verse 24, if you would like. But here's what it says. Therefore, a man shall leave his father and his mother and hold fast or cleave, right, to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. So what does this mean? You say, well, it's obvious what it means, but what does it mean? All right. What does it mean? Are you ready for what God has to say on this? So I want to read this from you, and I got these from the New English Translation. So the NET. I use the NET a lot when I prepare for stuff like this because of its copious footnotes. Anyway, it says the verb is traditionally translated cleaves to. Okay, it has the basic idea of stick with to. E.g., it is used of Ruth resolutely staying with her mother-in-law in Ruth chapter 1, verse 14. Okay, in this passage, right? So Genesis 2:24. In this passage, it describes the inseparable relationship between the man and the woman in marriage as God intended it. Did you catch that? I didn't write this. Okay. I didn't write this. It was put scholars and stuff, but I agree with it. So God's design for marriage from the very beginning was between one man only, one woman only, right? Not man or man, not woman and woman, right? It was Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve, right? Okay, together, right? Inseparable. Did you catch that word? Inseparable. Now you say, well, I don't. Well, let's just dig a little deeper here, right? Now, how about the Hebrew word for flesh in this, right? And I don't know how to pronounce it exactly. I'm going to just say basar. All right, refers to more than just a sexual union, right? I mean, that's part of it. Right? We see how things were done in the ancient Near East. Yes, we see, especially in the Bible, especially in the book of Genesis, where it was where people would have sex and that would mean they were married, right? We see that when I think Abraham or Sarah, anyway, sends out to look for a wife for Isaac. Yes. Then Isaac and Rebecca meet up, and what does it say? Right? Basically, they had sex. Okay. Anyway, so it says, continuing on with this, the man and woman bring into being a new family unit. Okay, a new family unit. In this first marriage in human history, right? So obviously, right, because there's only Adam and Eve at this point in time. In this first marriage in human history, the woman was literally formed from the man's bone and flesh. The first marriage sets the pattern for how later marriages are understood. So how every marriage from that point forward is understood that's the standard, right? So in other words, one man and one woman, right? So in other words, can it ever be between a man and a man or a woman and a woman? No, because from the very first marriage, it was between one man and one woman, right? And you say, well, that was back then, right? Gotcha, right? Because everybody, this company say, well, you're going down a rabbit hole. No. Because if we get the wrong idea of marriage, if we don't hold to God's idea of marriage as important, then anything goes. I mean, out there today, we have people literally burying themselves. I saw. I remember don't remember how I came across the article, but I saw where a woman decided to hold a marriage ceremony for herself. She stood in front of a mirror reciting vows. Isn't that nutso? Right? We have people who want to marry children. We have people who want to marry all sorts of things. I'm not joking. All this information out there for you to see for yourself. So if we don't hold marriage as important, right? Maybe I should have said God's idea of marriage as important. Then anything goes, and when anything goes, well, how long before the land vomits us out? That's what it's biblical language. In case you get offended. Anyway, so Jesus does reaffirm this because a lot of people will say, well, Jesus never spoke up on this topic. Jesus never spoke up on homosexuality. Well, you know what? They're just like sin. That's what they love, sin, and they try to say this kind of junk, but there's no truth to it. Okay? So let's read here from Matthew 19, and we're going to go from verses 3 to 8. Okay, it's very important we read all of it in its entirety to get the proper context. Okay, it says, then some Pharisees came to him in order to test him. They asked, is it lawful to divorce a wife for any cause? He answered, who? Jesus. Catching this. Have you not read that from the beginning the Creator made them male and female, right? Real quick side note, transgenderism is against God. Okay, just FYI. And said, for this reason, a man will leave his father and mother and will be united with his wife, and these two shall become one flesh, right? Just what we read from Genesis 2:24. Jesus is quoting from that in verse 5, right? He quotes from Genesis chapter 1 and verse 4. So, verse 6. So they are no longer two, but one flesh. Therefore, what God has joined together, let no one separate. So Jesus is making it clear. God's view in marriage, yet again, reiterating what was said in Genesis chapter 2, is inseparability, right? Inseparable. Marriage for life. In other words, there should be nothing in us that says, hey, there's a way out, right? There should be nothing looking for a way out, looking for a reason, or the maybes or the ifs, right? Or the, what do you call it? Prenuptial agreements, right? Those are demonic. Prenups, you know. In other words, you sign a piece of paper that if you divorce, right, this is what's going to happen, right? That should never be done. We should never enter into marriage with a, well, it may happen mentality. It goes against God. So if you're out there and you have that mentality, you're going against God. I'm just showing you what the word says. Okay. And then as usual, the Pharisees being the Pharisees continue on in verse 7. They said to him, why then did Moses command us to give a certificate of dismissal and to divorce it? Right. By the way, in this culture, it could, in this time frame, only a man could divorce. Okay. A woman could not initiate a divorce, and they would give a writ. You know, I've divorced you, basically. And Jesus said to them, Moses permitted you to divorce your wives because of your hard hearts. But from the beginning, it was not this way. Or your translation may read, from the beginning, it was not so. So from the very beginning, going back up to what I talked about, what was said in Genesis chapter, at the end of Genesis chapter 2, right? This inseparability I read to you is God's idea, right? And if we don't take marriage seriously, if we don't take marriage as God intended it to be, we're walking, let's just face it, we're walking around with hard hearts. That's what we're doing. There's just no bones about it. Right? Let's not mince words. Let's not try to downplay what sin is, right? When people break up with marriage, right? We see things, irreconcilable differences. Okay. I don't know. Things are different. Oh, I just don't love him anymore. But you don't, believe me, you don't fall in and fall out of love. That's not the way it works. Right? I mean, there's many reasons why people separate and get divorced that are completely outside the Bible. Plenty of them. But at the end of the day, it goes against God at the end of the day. Okay? So we see God's design for marriage, how it was meant to be from the very beginning, right? One man, one woman, joined together for life, right? This I don't know, how would I describe it? Spiritual, soul or soulish, this unity. In other words, this unity that goes beyond the flesh, right? I mean, you may have heard some people refer to things as soul ties. I'm okay with that language. So, in other words, like if two people have sex, they form a tie because that's what God intended it to be. He didn't intend for us to have casual sex with casual partners. God never intended it to be that way. You don't go forming soul ties with multiple people. Okay, that's completely outside of it. Okay, like I said, once again, we see that also never between the same sexes. Now you say, well, what does that have to do with holding marriage is important? Like I said, this is according to God's design. And God's standard is the only standard. There is no other standard. Anything else is not the standard. Anything else is an opinion. That's it. Remember that. Anything else outside of God's design is an opinion, right? I mean, okay. So, like I said, you may have heard it said, and I said it today. It wasn't Adam and Eve, or it wasn't Adam and Steve. It was Adam and Eve, right? Correct. It was not Eve and Eve either, by the way, because this is God's design, right? God's design for marriage. Now, you say, people may say, but what if these two people? What does it matter? What does it matter if they really love each other, right? I have no doubt in my mind that they believe it to be true. Right, so I'm going to disagree with some people on the subject that say, well, no, they really do love each other. Okay, no, they don't. Let me put that right out there. Right? Why? Because yet again, God defines what love is. Correct? What is love? Right? According to God, according to God's design. So anything outside of that is not love. It's a I don't know how to describe it. A fictional. It's just in somebody's mind. Well, I'm a guy and I love this guy. No, you don't love each other. Not to mention, if I wanted to, I could bring up lots of statistics, lots of data that points to the rampant abuse in the homosexual community. By the way, okay, just an FYI. Okay, just an FYI. Because once again, what we have to say about something has to be according to God. If you don't like it, go create your own universe. Okay? And God sets the standard here. So not to mention that, homosexual marriage is completely way out the ballpark of God's design, because we know that He tells them to be what? Fruitful, multiply, right? That doesn't mean grow crops or make money. It means children. Okay? God's design is marriage important, yes, because according to God, this is how we fulfill by multiplying. Yes? So a man and a man doesn't make children. Yes, you see that? Male to male ends, they don't fit together. Okay? A female and a female cannot make children, right? That doesn't work together either. Why? Well, multiple reasons. The plumbing issues, right? A woman and a woman having the same exact plumbing doesn't quite work out, and a man. Also, of course, the woman has an egg that needs to be fertilized by the man, right? And the man has sperm that needs to fertilize an egg. And that's how children are made. I mean, I know you're saying, don't tell me this. I'm educated. I'm a grown-up. Yeah, but we're talking about a generation here who's so perverse and wicked that they believe that a man can be pregnant just because a woman has decided to identify as a man and look like a man. We're talking to this generation. We're talking about a generation who asks the insanely stupid question, what is a woman? I mean, obviously it should be self-evident to anybody, but we're talking about this perverse generation we're dealing with right now. So people say, I love each other, or I love one another. They don't really love one another, right? Because if they really did love one another, according to God's standard, right, they wouldn't be together in the first place, right? So you might say, what would be my advice if a homosexual came to Christ, right? What would be my advice to them? Immediately off the bat would be to divorce, because their marriage is not a marriage by God's standard. So you may say, but in America, it's legal for homosexual marriage. I don't care what America says. Okay? Homosexual marriage is not a recognized marriage in God's eyes. It's an abomination in God's eyes. So my first piece of advice, this is where I'm going to differ with somebody else, by the way, and so we know who I'm differing with strongly on this, right, would be to immediately tell them to divorce because it is not a marriage in God's eyes. And as long as they're living in that marriage, they're living in sin and they're rejecting God. I don't care if they came, and I don't care if they truly had a true conversion experience. Okay, I'm not here to judge people's hearts. I'm not here to judge right now people's conversion experiences. That's a topic for another time. But I'm just doing my best to make the point. Amen. I'm doing my best here to make this point. Because living in sin is living in sin, right? It'd be no different than somebody coming to Christ who was a drug addict, but then they go back and they don't stop day after day after day. They do drugs. Like something's going on there. Either they had a conversion experience, but they were like one of the seeds in the parable of the seeds that Jesus talked about, right? Or they never did convert in the first place. Either way, both are bad. So you say, man, but don't you have to be sensitive on the issue? Yeah, but I have to be loving as well. And God loves truth. And God doesn't want us to hold back from the truth. And if we're trying to be so sensitive that we want to please a person over God, then we're not walking in the fear of the Lord anymore, and we're walking in the fear of man. See where I'm going with this? See how this all ties into us asking ourselves the question, is marriage important according to God's design? And obviously a resounding, hopefully you've gotten from this a resounding yes. Okay. Now we're at the 30-minute mark now. So real quick, don't forget, all right, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Go ahead, do that while you're at it. Okay. You may be watching on Twitter. You may want to weigh in. I can't see your comments. If you're commenting right now, I can't see anything right now. Okay. I don't see what's coming on with Twitter. So if you want to ask your questions, you want to weigh in, maybe you disagree with me, let me know what you disagree with on this subject. All right. I will more than gladly talk about it, but you have to hop onto YouTube to do it. And I always say YouTube, even though I'm on Facebook, because a lot of people on Twitter are not on Facebook. So anyway, don't forget that. Don't forget to check out the website and sign up. Okay. Check out my website, davidcmcguire.org, davidcmcguire.org. All right. Hit that sign up button. All right. Why would you want to do that? Because when I do put out content from the website, all right, you'll get it. You don't have to worry about, oh man, did I check the website? Did he put one out today? I don't know. He hasn't put something out in quite a few days. No, you won't have to worry about that. It goes directly to your inbox. And I promise you, I won't spam you with messages. Okay. And of course, if you would like to donate, you can go directly to the website. By the way, all the links are in the description, whether you're watching by video or audio or listening by audio podcast after this. So the links to the YouTube channel, the links to the website, the links to how to donate are also all there for you. Are right there. And for some reason, I'm thinking they're not put up on the screen. Oh, 1 second. So I'm gonna put a QR code back up. There it is. So if you look up there while you're watching, there we go. Trying to get around my mic. Right up there in the corner is a QR code. You can scan. It'll take you directly to my website and a portion to donate. So there you go. I'm going to put that back up on the screen. I don't know why that went off the screen. Anyway, okie dokie then. So we've covered so far God's design for marriage. Right? We covered it from Genesis chapter 2. Excuse me. Oh, need some more water. Okay, so we've covered that. We've covered the fact that Jesus reiterated this very same thing during his earthly ministry, right? I think I read from Matthew chapter 19, and my good friend Eric, just scrolling back up, he read from Mark chapter 10. So those are two places you can look at for yourself. Trying to just look through some comments right here. Somebody talks about my PayPal. Yeah, my PayPal is not working right now. I forgot. I gotta go take care of that. I probably won't be able to take care of that until probably the end of the month. So yeah, but you guys can use Venmo or PayPal and it'll work just fine. So thanks for that, Scott. Let's see. Right. When I was talking so I covered that an in-depth about what it means to be to cleave to one another, become one, right? It goes beyond just the act of sex. It's literally you form a whole new unit, right? Talking about that. They dug into the meanings of the Hebrew in Genesis chapter 2. We saw about God's design from the beginning. We saw that homosexual marriage is outside of God's design. And like I said, my advice to anybody, would they should a homosexual who's in a marriage come to you, say, I came to Christ, what do I do now? The first piece of advice would be to get a divorce right away, right away, right away, right away. No, don't wait. All right. You say, well, that's insensitive. I'm not trying to be sensitive. Okay. I'm trying to do exactly what God, right? According to Galatians 1:10, right? Basically, you don't know what Galatians 1:10, right? Who am I trying to please, man or God? Okay. Okay. And I talked about, well, what does it matter if two people love each other? I talked about, well, it doesn't matter because, yet again, what is God's standard on love? Right? God's standard of love is not for a man and a man or a woman and a woman to love one another or anything outside of the boundaries of what would constitute or in the future constitute marriage. Okay, continuing on. Okay, so like I said, the most obvious answer, obviously, out of all of this, right, is marriage important? Obviously, the answer is just because that's God's design. And anything outside of that means we don't hold marriage as important if we're operating outside of that. Okay, and of course, the very fact which we'll dig into later on future segments of Marriage Monday is that God gives us very clear instruction, not just in Genesis chapter 2, but all throughout His Word on marriage. All right, He gives us clear. Obviously, Paul is probably the number one I can think on with very clear and precise instructions on the topic of marriage. Right? We could look at the book of Ephesians for this. We'll look at that in the future. By the way, where Paul gives clear instructions, like, okay, how is a woman supposed to be towards her husband? How is a man supposed to be toward his wife? Things and so on and so forth, right? And I think it's in as well as the book of Colossians as well. So why all these clear instructions if marriage is not important to God? Why would God call us his bride and refer to Himself, Jesus, as the bridegroom, right? Why would He refer to, when everything's all said and done, tribulation's over, right? The great marriage supper of the Lamb. All this language of marriage, right? All this language with which God referred to his Israel, right? He used terms that people would know. It refers to somebody who was married, right? He would tell them, hey, you're committing adultery on me, right? Using this language of marriage, right? Obviously, heck, we have a whole book all about this, Song of Songs, Song of Solomon. So yeah, FYI, if you think it's talking about Jesus, nope. Is it talking about the church? Nope. It's talking about two lovers and sex. That's what it's all about. Yeah, Bible can get mighty steamy on these things, by the way. So I tell you what, things like Game of Thrones and other things, they ain't got nothing on the Bible. I'll tell you that much right now. Anyway, so yeah, of course, obviously, with all that I've said so far, I think hopefully I've gotten the point across. Marriage is extremely important, and we need to hold it to such an extreme importance. I think Dr. Brown was talking about the lack of fathers, right? And I did look up these statistics, by the way. So, well, I thought you were asking if marriage is important, right? And you know, then if you don't believe it's important, then you won't believe having fathers is important. Yet, let me look up on my phone real quick here. I gotta go to something here. I was trying to find these. I was trying to find all the statistics I put in together for the slides. But let me just read some stats off to you real quickly. These are not all of them. Here's one. How about 85% of youth who are currently in prison grew up in the fatherless home? So grew up in a home that did not value marriage. Whether that's or think marriage is important now, whether that's because they had sex outside of marriage, and then you have this guy with 10 children from 10 different women, or it was because of a divorce. How about this? 75% of rapists are motivated by displaced anger that is associated with feelings of abandonment that involves their father. 3/4 of racists, or rapists, sorry, it's a racist. 3/4 of rapists goes back to a fatherless home. 85% of all children which exhibit some type of a behavioral disorder come from a fatherless home. That's just not even the tip of the iceberg on stats I could read to you about the negative effects, right, of fatherlessness. And it comes from not valuing marriage, right? People are having sex outside of the marriage constantly, right? That means they don't value marriage according to God, right? And a lot of times, obviously, what is the result of sex? Children, right? It's like people are like, how did I get pregnant? I don't think it's that complicated how you got pregnant, there are such things as stupid questions. How did I get pregnant? Well, unless your name is Mary, it's because you had sex. Okay? Bottom line here. But do people do this? I mean, we have abortion rates skyrocketed. Why? Because people don't think marriage is important, right? Why abortions? Because it's sex outside marriage, right? Sex outside marriage is the main reason for abortions. Bottom line. And I don't know what the statistics are, but praise God that in many states across this great nation, like the great state of Texas, the great Republic of Texas, anyway, is outlawed abortion. But people just want their sin. People don't want to value marriage as God values it. And let me tell you right there, out there, we'll call you, how to do, churchgoers who think you're a Christian. If you're out there shacked up with another man or woman, however that plays out, you're living in sin. Bottom line. Somebody says, hey, appreciate your prayers regarding wisdom on remarriage. But I'm praying. Oh, yeah, sure. So, yeah, everybody, I'm going to put this up on the screen because people may be watching elsewhere. Hey, pray for this fellow right here, please. That's a great heart to have on remarriage. That's awesome. All right, it's fully possible through God. There are many stories out there about remarriage, by the way. So please, people, I would appreciate if you pray for this fellow right here. But marriage is important, and there's so much fallout today because people don't hold this important, right? We have sexually transmitted diseases, right? It's been around for a long time, but it's ramped up in more recent times as all sorts of things go wacko. You have people who are gender fluid or whatever heck that's supposed to mean. You have people who are omnisexual, whatever the heck that's supposed to mean. But bottom line is, like, you could have a man and a man have sex, but then a man have sex with a woman, and you see where all this leads to, right? Death and disease, right? The birth rate plummeting, right? And by the way, if you think that's not important, well, the birth rate is obviously directly tied to God's design on marriage, right? Which is a couple to come together and have children, right? And I'm not talking about those who, for medical reasons, cannot have children. That's a separate topic for another day. What I am talking about is God's design. And you think, oh, well, the birth rate. Yeah. Well, let me tell you what. If a country's birth rate falls below a certain level, guaranteed there's going to come a crash. Guaranteed. All right. I'm not an economist, but I at least study this kind of stuff. I study the effects. I mean, Japan is a crisis right now. Yeah. Japan, right? Who leads in lots of different areas, technology, toys, lots of things. They are at a crisis right now because their birth rate is way below what any nation should be. Okay. And that comes back to God's idea on marriage, right? So also, if we don't hold to God's idea as marriage, then we bring into the marriage bedroom other things, like contraceptives. God's ideal is never to use contraceptives. And I'm going to say it right here in case you're wondering what my view on this is. Contraceptives are demonic and evil and go against God's design. There, bottom line. A man using a condom, a woman using whatever is out there for a woman, IUDs or store-bought stuff or the pill or whatever the case may be. It's demonic and it's evil. You say, "Oh, I disagree with you on that." Well, I don't care. God's design from the very beginning was to come together, be fruitful, and multiply. That means have children. There's no other, by the way, in case you're wondering, no, there is no other interpretation for that. That is the interpretation. It's not my interpretation. It's the interpretation. So not having children, well, then you don't value God. You see how probably, hope I get across to you that what it means to hold marriage in importance kind of goes outside. There's a lot that comes into it, and the effects of it. We'll call it. We'll use the terminology we used when we were in Iraq: second and third order effects, right, or unintended consequences, if you will. In other words, if I do this, yes, this is the direct effect it has, but then there are other effects outside of that. Right. For instance, in Iraq, if I were to kick down somebody's door, take the guy, embarrass him in front of his family, right? You think, well, what if he's a criminal? Yeah. But the second and third order effects is I just turned that family against us, right? Because in Iraq, they're a very patriarchal society, right? And you don't embarrass the guy, right? You don't, it's all about wasta. So go look up that word if you want, wasta. Like his influence, like you destroy his wasta when you do that to him, right? And then the second and third order effects is I probably just turned that tribe against me. See what I'm saying? So exactly, yeah. Eric says secondary and tertiary effects, right? So not valuing marriage, right? We have what are the unintended consequences or second and third order effects, right? Childlessness, dropping birth rate, which drops a country's GDP down, their gross domestic output. Then it obviously STDs, which now puts a burden on the medical system, which might also affect some STDs, affect the ability to even have children, to even get pregnant, right? I mean, how about the law of the land right now? Perversion running rampant, right? I mean, we're celebrating Pride Month. Can you believe that? I never thought I'd ever see that, but here we are. So I could go on and on about second and third order effects, but I hope you get the point. You know, I hope this actually gets your juices flowing and you start thinking critically about this, right? And of course, that you made yourself an enemy of God if you don't hold to these things. If you don't hold to what I've talked about, God's idea of marriage, okay, then you are in direct rebellion to God. And I've done a show on this. John 3:36 talks about this, right? Everybody loves John 3:16. For God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten son that whoever should believe in him will have everlasting life. Wow, sounds great. But then they never read to John 3:36, which talks about those who disobey, right? The wrath of God remains upon them. Ooh. Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of churchgoers. A lot of people who are churchgoers, but they don't hold to this. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hit that like button. All right. Probably should have said that at the beginning before I got all with this fiery topic, but that's okay. Go ahead and hit that like button if you haven't. Small little thing for you to do, less than 1 second, has a big impact. Why? Because it gets this content pushed out and recommended to other people. So like I said, tomorrow, I don't know if I'll be able to do a show. I have to take my oldest son to a doctor's appointment. It's at 2 p.m. My time, which means, will I be able to make it back for a show in time? I don't know. You know how medical appointments go. You know how doctors go. They schedule for an appointment and they see you 30 minutes after you get there. Who knows? I don't know. Maybe it'll work out. But if it does work out, then I will do a Q&A tomorrow. So if I can make it back for a show tomorrow, I will definitely do a Bible-based Q&A on YouTube only. Once again, on YouTube only. So audience members out there, If you're watching on any other platform other than YouTube, you will not be able to participate in the live Bible-based Q&A. You have to go to the YouTube channel to participate. Say, I don't like that. Well, you do your own show and you can do what you like. This is my show. I get to do what I like to do. Anyway, be blessed, everybody. Love you all. Look forward to being back with you soon. God willing.